Hi. It's been a while, I know. And I haven't critiqued a silent film in some time. Well, this one that I found is it's different. So, I'm going to talk about it. So, it's only 30 seconds long. And actually it wasn't shown in a theater. For 30 seconds, you're saying, duh. It was actually shown in what would be called a peep show. Now, before you get the wrong idea, hold up there. No, it's not one of those peep shows. No. Um, the device that was used is called a Mutoscope. And it was, well, it wasn't that tall, but it was like this, and you would bend over, and it had like the little binocular things, and you would look in, probably put in about 5 cents, and it had like the flip book effect, and you'd watch this story for 30 seconds. And so in other words, a peep show, because you're peeping in and you're watching this show. And then of course there were the erotic ones, and it happens. Those erotic ones creep up. Like, what was that one? What the Butler Saw? Never saw it, but it's one of the more famous. So, these popped up in like arcades. Edwardian arcades are very different from what we know as arcades now. And arcades back then were more like shopping malls. They didn't have malls back then. So, like shopping centers, like strip malls, that was an arcade. And so a lot of times what would also have, like you had like the candy stores, and you would see other things that would, I know that I'm totally blowing it, but like Pike's Place Market. And it's an open area, and you just shop. And then there's also little things for fun, because there's the boardwalk. And you have these little Mutoscope things that you could look into. And, you would have other little fun things going on around you, and that, yeah. So it was kind of like a strip mall. And like Pike's Place Market. And so anyway, kind of that way. But yeah, what arcade meant then is not what arcade means now. Because we think of like the video games and everything else. But so the title of the film is called Sherlock Holmes Baffled. And the release date, it says between 1900 and 1903. It was shot in 1900, was even released in 1900. However, the copyright title card says 1903. Nobody knows why this happened. Who knows why they did a thing? It's directed by Arthur Marvin. His brother, from what I'm reading, was the creator of Mutoscope. Thomas Edison was having major fits with Mutoscope. I mean, he was having massive tantrums over Mutoscope because he had the kinetoscope. And Mutoscope, you compare the two, and kinetoscope just is clunky and awkward. This one, the person could stand up, kind of bend over, and look in. It worked. You look at the kinetoscope, and it's like, it's awkward. So anyway, this was considered the first detective film to be released. This is also the earliest known film to feature Sherlock Holmes. However, the plot is in no way connection to any of Conan Doyle's stories. It was just something to put out a Mutoscope flipbook kind of thing. It was considered lost for quite some time until 1968. And it was a paper print. Now, paper prints were popular back then. Apparently, that was how they, like Mutoscope and Thomas Edison, with these particular kinds of prints, apparently that was a better way to preserve. I think that's what I read. I might be wrong. But anyhow, a lot of their films for this particular kind of format, that's what they did. It could also be they distributed one way, and then the paper print was for their own personal whatever. And anyway, so again, 30 seconds is like a flip book, if you know what that is. I used to make flip book. I used to doodle and do flip books in class. It's a wonder I even got good grades. Oh, good heavens. But yeah, it's like a flip book effect. There are special effects. This was around the same time that Georges Méliès was pulling off his. I mean, he was pretty much at his height because he started 4 years earlier. Because 1903, and Georges Méliès was like 4 years before back in France. So, America was behind. Whatever. But, you know, actually seeing it and then attempting to do it, the special effects for something so short actually aren't that bad. And but the point of this is Sherlock comes into his place of residence and find that he's being robbed, and then the intruder leaves. That's not the end. I'll let you see the rest. But again, 30 seconds, and there isn't, I know that a lot of people complain when there isn't much of character development and that sort of thing. You're not going to get that because this was one of those things that was in a device that you put money, like maybe 10 cents or something, and you watch for 30 seconds. And that's all you got was 30 seconds. And it was one of those where you stroll down the beach or the boardwalk and you saw these and they were all different. And one could have this one, like Sherlock Holmes. Another one could have, I don't know, Hercules beats the monster. The other one could be, Romeo and Juliet. The other one could be, all of them had a different one. And so, and so 30 seconds of that, of a plot. And like I said, it's in no way connected to any of Conan Doyle's stories. So if you watch it and are like, where's that in the stories? I've read them thousands of times. It's not in there. Don't worry. Confirmed, not in there. It's just something that they used for the Mutoscope. I will put in a link to explain more thoroughly what Mutoscope was. I will even put in kinetoscope in case that's because I didn't really know what a kinetoscope was. I feel like I should, but I didn't until I started reading this. Because I'm like, why is he having such fits over this? I mean, he really should. That's why. Okay. He steals things. He doesn't really. But he had already built his, and then the mutoscope came up, and then he was upset. So. But yeah, it's 30 seconds. Um, and if you're a Sherlock fan like me, it's worth watching anyway. And the special effects really for being 30 seconds, not that bad. They really aren't. I enjoyed it, and for learning a little more about the mutoscope, I mean, like I said, the peep show thing, it's kind of turned into the whole thing of it's just related to the erotic stuff. It wasn't always. So no, it's you're peeping into that mutoscope to see 30 seconds of a show. So, but anyway, yeah, I'll put all the links that need to be in there, and so that you can see more of a about the mutoscope and get more of an understanding. I think if there might be some in Coney. I've never been to Coney Island. There might be still some there. I know that there's at least one in Seattle. And I don't think it works, but I know that it's there. But yeah, I'm sure that there's still some that exist all over the place. Anywhere. And not just here in America. I'm sure that there's some all over, so. But yeah. Um, this is one that was not in a theater.